Hey, my name's D, and I'm one of those people that are paid to professionally shoot video and photo of people, places, things, events, whatever, you name it. And I've gone from sensor to sensor, and I've gone from system to system. And of all the camera brands you may think that I could choose, and all the cameras in all these camera brands, the one that I choose to handle my professional work for video, for photo, the one that I've trusted over the years more than anything, and that I would recommend more than any other camera to any other person, weirdly enough, is a Fujifilm X Pro 3. And it's something that I feel like we need to talk about.
Some call me crazy. That might be true.
So the X Pro 3 from Fujifilm for the past 2 years has been my go-to camera of choice. And before you start saying, oh, full frame this, full frame that, and you must never, listen, let me tell you right now. I started off shooting with the Canon 5D Mark II. That was the first camera I ever purchased myself with L-glass lens. From there I moved in from Micro Four Thirds to APS-C. I tried them all. Was shooting with the Sony A7 III. Got to shoot with the Sony A7 IV. Have shot with cinema cameras for live production, Canon C300, whatever, what have you. L-glass, G-Master glass, Red Badge Fujifilm glass, shooting with the X-T3, shooting with an X-H1. And I've fallen into a place to where I'm in love with this camera over all those cameras. And listen, I've even shot Canon mirrorless cameras, and the EOS R isn't a camera to be slept on. Not my favorite brand at all because I don't like the way they treat their customers, but the EOS R is a fantastic camera, and I've shot with their L-glass RF lenses. So before you say that I don't know this or I don't know that or no professional can shoot with an APS-C camera, I'm going to tell you, go f yourself first, and you don't know shit. And I just want that to ring out in your head, because I'm telling you right now, if you can't be professional with an APS-C camera and a kit lens, you're not a professional at all just because you own a couple of nice L-glass overpriced lenses and an overpriced Leica body or Canon body or whatever. So with that out of the way, let me get into the details of why I choose this camera, and I'm going to talk about a few things, and I'm going to try to highlight them as I can, but as this rant continues, I just hope you know that I'm really trying my best. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is shooting video. And yes, this camera shoots video. Really good video. Great, fantastic video. And if you don't believe that this camera shoots great video, go watch videos about the X-T3 or the X-T4 video. Go watch videos about the X-T3 and the X-T4 autofocus, especially after the 2021 updates. Why am I telling you to watch that? Because this camera has the exact same sensor as those cameras. It's very, very simple. You guys have to learn how sensor technology works in Fujifilm. So for those of you who are new, let me explain something to you. Fujifilm is a very, very, very unique company because they don't obliterate and cripple other cameras in their lines in order to protect their flagship lines. For example, whether it's an XE3, which is seen as a prosumer camera, or the XS10, which is seen as also an entry prosumer camera, or the XT4 and the XH1, soon to be XH2, that people see as the flagship for Fujifilm. They're all APS-C and they all have the same sensor. The XH2, of course, will have a different sensor. But what I'm saying is, Fujifilm doesn't skip on the sensor. What differs in things is whether they can process certain things or they can shoot certain frames per second, but it's never crippled. On a camera that is a couple years old versus a camera in the XH1 that is a few years older than that, I'd say about maybe at least 4 years old, 3 years old. How old is the XH1? You're still able to shoot log, you're still able to shoot 4K, you're still able to shoot at high bit rates that will match from camera to camera, including with the cultivating, and or however you pronounce it, with this camera, the X-T4 from Fujifilm. That supposedly was one of the best hybrid cameras of all time. The frame rates that it shot, megabits per second, the sensor, what it's shooting and what it's cropping down to, etc, etc, etc. People raved about this. Is it an A7 III? I don't think so. Does it have as great as autofocus as Sony and Canon right now? No. But is it that far behind? It's not. And the thing you need to know is, with updates, this camera, the same way that everyone was saying that the X-T3 with updates was able to be pretty close to this, the X Pro 3 is very close to this. So when it comes to shooting videos, when it comes to shooting commercial work, which I've done, which have been uploaded to local TV, or real estate work for online digital ads, or whether it be for this channel, actually 75% of all videos shot on this channel have been shot on this camera, and if it wasn't that, it's been recently shot on the XH2 or on my DJI Osmo Pocket, which I have going right here as a B camera. this camera does it all. It shoots 4K, and the 4K is amazing. It shoots 1080 so well that I actually would shoot 1080 and upscale this so I could shoot for 30 minutes to a 4K timeline and no one could tell the difference. I even had people show me they put it on their large TVs, their large monitors for their computers, and no one could tell a difference. Shoot log in this baby, slap the Eterna filter on it or grade it yourself, and you're good to go. And this camera right here, listen, I'm telling you right now, people will tell you, oh, it's just for photography, it's just for this. That's a limited view. That's a limited view that came out of people trying to do reviews and sell you on shit for clickbait whenever this camera first came out. As someone who's had this camera for a couple years and has worked it from edge to edge and touched every inch of this camera's body, trust me, it does more than enough for video. If you were to be stuck and had to use this for video, you wouldn't cry. The autofocus is great, especially for talking head like this. And just to be honest with you guys, if there are any of you out there who are relying on dual pixel autofocus or eye autofocus or the tracking motion of Sony or Fujifilm or Panasonic when it comes to shooting professional work, I want to let you know right now, you need to get over yourself and step your game up. When you're shooting those things professionally, what we actually use is if we use any gear, we'll shoot manually for focus and for zoom, or we have a device that helps us focus and zoom that's going to be right here on a grip or right here close to the handle. That way we can control everything all in one. So for those people that are watching YouTube videos and it's talking about, oh, you know, it's going to track, it's going to do this, no one in their right mind shooting anything professional would rely on tracking or center autofocus because of how frequent things are crossing, how much things can jump. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. Everything's shot manual in a professional environment. Even whenever you're shooting, I was shooting on cinema cameras and having someone follow left to right. A lot of times we're locking focus at a slower aperture in order to make sure that we're hitting every single time. Don't believe the hype on the internet. This thing does more than enough for video. If you want to go check out my videos from, I say, before this month in July, go look at those. All of those were shot with this camera. Every single thing that's been done, even the ones that are my ads for, real estate and things like that, all shot on this camera. There's never been a single issue. Now, when it comes to the photography side of this camera, which is what it's been mostly talked about, the Pro and the X Pro 3 means professional. And it doesn't mean professional street photographer. Yes, it's a small camera. It looks cool. It looks like a street photographer camera. It looks like those vintage Kodak cameras. It looks like a vintage Bessa R, which this what I think it's made after is the Bessa R. But it's not just a street photography camera. This is a professional camera. I show up to professional shoots with this camera. And let me tell you something right now and get it out of your head. If you're one of those people that have been told, or you think, I need to have a big camera, I need a camera with a grip so people think I'm professional. Listen, no one that's a client gives a f about what you shoot with if your images suck. Worry about your images not sucking, and then get yourself a grip if you need to, and then get yourself some better glass. But if you can't be professional with an APS-C camera and a kit lens, or a Micro Four Thirds camera, or an entry-level camera and a kit lens, and you have to have L-glass lens, and you have to have the top-notch everything, listen, you're not a professional, you're a poser with really good stuff. So I'm telling you right now, if you can't be professional with not having IBIS, with not having L-glass, and with not having, or Leica's Summilux, or Octalux, or Octonauts, or whatever the hell they're called, and a $5,000 camera, you can't be professional with anything. And I've owned those cameras. I've done that. I've bought into the hype. This is me telling you that for everyone trying to gatekeep, everyone telling you that you can't use a small camera, I've shown up with this. I've shown up with an XE3 and shot with this camera, and no matter what lens is on there, my favorite is a 35 1.4. No one gives a damn because they've already seen my work, they've already chosen me, and they already know that I'm gonna come through and provide. And at the end of the shoot, when I show them their images, when I send them their proofs, and they're picking what to print, they never say, wow, how did you do that with such a little camera? They don't give a damn. So stop giving a damn. This is a great camera for everything. Number one, this is great if you're shooting with strobe in a dark environment, because when it comes to the EVF and being able to use this thing right here, and then you have a little preview in the little bottom right hand corner so you can hit focus using manual lens or to make sure you're hitting focus. When it comes to using the EVF so that you can see things a little bit brighter and you're actually able to hit focus by focusing on the eyeball, this is amazing. There is nothing better than a camera like this. This has the best of both worlds. This is a mirrorless camera with the weight and the autofocus and everything, but I'm still able to control my surroundings when I'm shooting professional studio photography. If it's dimly lit and I'm having a hard time focusing because it's dimly lit, I'm able to switch to the EVF, and I've got the best of the mirrorless system and of a DSLR. And for those of you who know what I'm talking about, the beauty of a DSLR, to be able to look through the EVF or the OVF and to be able to see exactly what's there, to be able to trust your and look at your dials and be able to adjust the exposure there, to be able to see everything that's in the photo and then take your shot. That's exactly what you're getting with the X Pro 3. That's exactly why this is such a great camera. For professional work, it's great. I shoot sports photography with this, which this outperformed the X-T4. I'm just gonna say it, I've said it before. I would still keep this camera over the X-T4. I actually say don't switch to the X-T4 if you have an X-T3 or an XH1 until the just don't switch. Wait until the X-T5 comes out. Wait until the XH2 comes out and check from there. But this is the camera that if you ever skipped a Fujifilm camera, I don't care about the battery. It's not that much better. I would definitely skip it. But this camera right here outperformed it for whenever it came to shooting sports photography. When it comes to shooting weddings and engagements, this is great. When it comes to shooting professional work, I actually have been shooting a documentary with bull riders and having to shoot that. It doesn't miss. It does a great job. If I'm having a trouble because it's too dark because the EVF, I switch to the OVF. There is nothing this camera can't do that another camera can't. Now you may be telling me, well, does it shoot, you know, like a Sony A1 with that frame rate, or an A9 II, or the frame rate in A5? It doesn't. It doesn't. Does it have the same autofocus? It doesn't. Does it hit the eye as much? It doesn't. But I'm not someone who's shooting at 1.0 and everything. I'm not someone who thinks that having the fastest aperture and the background blur is going to make my image better, because I've been in the game long enough to know exactly what I'm shooting. When you're shooting people and you're shooting in areas that they've chosen because they like the scenery, why would you want to blow out the scenery? Why would you want someone to spend their time fixing their makeup and their outfit in order to, and guys getting haircuts in order to only have one eyeball in focus? It makes no sense. When you're shooting with this camera, it's a great feel. It's light, it feels good in the hand. Because there's no bottom grip or anything like that, actually I like it better, because if I need to use two hands, I can right here, and I'm still able to rest it on my palm. When it comes to shooting manual focus, same thing. I just like the way it feels. I like having the EVF and the OVF off to the left side, because I have a larger schnoz and I'm able to shoot. I also like it because I can open up my eye and see what's coming in. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of benefits. To people saying this is a poor man's Leica, this is not a poor man's Leica. If I'm being honest with you, people that say that these are a poor man's Leica are people that have probably never shot with a Leica, or have spent thousands on their Leica and have no way of justifying spending that much money on a digital camera that not only plummets in value, but isn't that great. Leica sensors, ever since the M8 and the M9 debacle, with their sensors being destroyed by UV rays and them having to send out special free UV filters so that you don't ruin your camera, they've actually switched to a manufacturer, I believe it's CMOSIS, that makes CMOS sensors and camera sensors for a whole bunch, imaging sensors for a whole bunch of companies, including other digital manufacturers. So there is nothing special about a Leica camera. I have friends that shoot Leicas. My boy Lee DeLeon, you should follow him at El DeLeon on Instagram. But you know, he'll even tell you himself, there's nothing special about Leica. He just shoots it for the field. And if you're shooting for the field, that's great. That's why I shoot with this. But let's not call this a poor man's Leica, because to me, this is probably better than a Leica camera, because for the bang for the buck, I'm getting 24 megapixels, which a lot of times, like on a Type 240, you're getting 24 megapixels. You can crop like hell in this thing. The lenses are fantastic. The X-Trans sensor does amazing in low light, and you're not missing anything. So stop calling this a poor man's Leica, because number one, Leica copied the rangefinder from Kodak in their Kodak Brown, whatever it is, bodies. This is modeled after a Bessa R, and Leica does have some of the most amazing, if not the most amazing glass I've ever used and I've ever seen, because yes, I've shot with a Leica before, but the bodies are nothing to write home about, so let's cut that out. But yeah, this is a great body. I didn't choose it because of the look. I chose it because I wanted the form factor and because I was intrigued by it not having the back screen. And so for professional photography, this camera is more than enough, but it also overachieves and it does amazing. Again, this outperformed the X-T4, which has amazing autofocus apparently, this great battery, an amazing boost mode, and this amazing this outperformed this X-T4 in sports photography. Let that sink in. I shot a professional sports game and this worked better. And to be honest, whenever I go back and I shoot more of these games, and whenever I start shooting San Antonio Spurs games, or if I get to shoot a Flying Chocolate game, I'm still going to use this. I'm never going to shoot with the X-T2 or this X-T3 or the X-T4 that I have right here, because this camera hasn't proven to me like this one has that it can do that. When I take it out of the box and it doesn't work the way I need it to do, or it starts missing, and then I juxtapose it to this and this never misses in lower light, like lower light, this did better in low light even. I kind of can't go away from this. So this thing is great. It's a professional's camera. This is the most professional camera if you ask me, and one of the reasons why is because the back. What's so professional about not being able to see your images? How are you going to review your images? How are you going to chant blah blah blah? Listen, there's two things that I want to say. First off, if any of you people shoot film also and you want to tell me that for your digital camera you don't like not having a back, you're a damn idiot, because that's the reason why you pretend like you like film and why you pretend like that's a superior way of taking photos when it's literally just imaging and just a box capturing light, just like this is right here. The other thing is, if you're the kind of person that thinks that it's unprofessional to have to take a photo and then have to look back and have to flip down a screen in order to review your image, there's a couple things. Me, who shoots professionally, when I take an image, I'm taking multiple images at once. So I'm shooting, I'm directing, I'm shooting. I'm not just sitting there taking a photo and, okay, that's good. Taking a photo, okay, that's good. That doesn't seem professional to me. I want to be having a conversation with my client. I want to be able to be in the moment, not take a photo, oh, that looks great. Oh, actually, fix this, fix that. You should be looking at their hair. You should be looking at the way they're set up, the way their shirt's being pulled by their fiance when they're taking their engagement photos, so it makes it look like he has a gut, by the way the strap's showing, by the way XYZ is showing. You should be looking at that stuff through the lens, also not taking time to zoom in and check through everything. Also, this is how quick it is to review an image. You take a shot, you then press the play button, and you're right there. I didn't move my eye from here. It's not that hard. Even more, when it comes to video or shooting photos and you want to review, check out how many steps it takes to be able to review that. I take a photo, that's it. One extra step. I popped it down. Does anyone want a cookie? If anyone tells you that this right here is an inconvenience, you just shouldn't listen. Why would this be an inconvenience? I came from shooting film, so maybe that's it. But how are you being inconvenienced by something so trivial and so small and not even noteworthy as a screen needing to be flipped down? See, we've gotten to the point, and I'm not saying this from a snobby place, but we've gotten to a point to where we think it's more professional to take a photo and then look at a camera instead of speaking to our subject. Because I'm telling you right now, if you're taking a photo and reviewing the first photo and you want me to believe that from there you're just shooting, taking them, and you're not looking at your photos to review them, I don't believe a damn thing. Listen, my clients don't care about me not looking back. I'm talking to them, I'm taking photos, I'm directing, I'm moving left and right, I'm making sure I'm getting the shot. I'm not showing them what I'm taking photos of, okay? It is my job to make them look good. Why do I need to have this pop down or to have this out and say, hey, does this look good? Are you okay? I don't do that. Whenever I'm shooting tethered, unless I'm shooting tethered, I don't do that. Because the goal is for you to make them look good. Now, if I'm shooting studio headshots, or if I'm shooting headshots for a company and shooting corporate headshots, yeah, after I shoot, I'm going to be tethered and I'm going to say, hey, do you want to look through these? Pick your favorite one, write it down for me so I know exactly what you have. Hold this gray card so that I can shoot you with this gray card and shoot with the photo you want. That way I can color balance the images, number one, to you, and number two, I know exactly what I'm going through. I can pick your images. That's way different than shooting at an engagement, at a wedding, at a sporting event. Listen, at a wedding, at a sporting event, who needs to see Who wants to see their photographer taking a photo and then looking and missing a moment because they're trying to make sure and look at the last 6 photos to find the one they really liked? Who wants that? All the stuff that you hear about this camera that's a negative, that is a reason why you shouldn't buy it, that was so dumb by Fujifilm or so whatever, is it's the biggest load of bullshit, sorry Dorian for all the language, that I've ever heard. It's people who are not only elitist whenever it comes to these things, but people that have bought into lies that have been sold to them by camera manufacturers. Number one being that full frame is the best and you don't get any better than full frame. Listen, if I take your shitty full frame photos, because a lot of people that say this stuff are shitty professionals and shitty photographers. I don't even believe there's anything as a professional photographer. If I take your shitty photos and put them in a batch with Micro Four Thirds Olympus photos and with some Fujifilm photos and just mix them all up, and let's say there's 20 of them, and I tell clients, hey, pick out which ones are full frame, do you think they're gonna give a f***? What do they think they even know what that means? No, they're gonna pick what's most pleasing. They're gonna pick what has the better composition. They're gonna pick what makes people look the most flattering. So stop worrying about what size sensor you have, and stop telling people, oh, I would only shoot full frame. Listen, it doesn't matter. I've had people in the comments cry so much because Leica this, Leica that, the Leica look, which listen, I have a video to where everyone went hush on apparently. It got over 300 views in the first 2 days, and all I did was ask people, hey, tell me out of all these photos, which ones are the Leica photos, and you just pick them out. There were like 15, 20 photos. You only had to pick out 5. I only had one person who got any right, and he only got 2. There were 5 Leica photos out of 20, and he only got 2 correct. Why? Because you guys all assume that a photo that has a whole bunch of saturation in it is a more professional looking, and that must be the Leica or the Canon look. You guys are dumb whenever it comes to this. Full frame doesn't mean shit. APS-C is a sweet spot. For me, at least. I think it's the Goldilocks zone of 24 megapixels. That's great to me. I hope Fujifilm doesn't go any higher because I like also having low light capabilities. Yeah, it doesn't get as much light. Yeah, the depth of field may be a little bit different, but from the photos that I've seen, no one gives a shit, no one can tell. Like, great, you can take a photo at f1.2. That's awesome that only the eyeball's in focus and nothing else. That's great. That's fantastic. The Fujifilm X Pro 3 is a fantastic camera. For video, it just works. It does everything you need to do. It doesn't function below average. It doesn't struggle whatsoever. I can shoot my 16:9 full HD and 24 frames per second at 200 megabytes per second. I can shoot my 4K at 200 megabytes per second. Like, what more do I need? What do I need? Do I need the 400 that comes with this? How is that helping me? Why do I want a file size that big? How is that helping me? You guys wouldn't be able to tell that I was shooting on an XT2 shooting at 4K to 100 megabits per second unless I told you. You guys have to remember, what do your clients want? Do they want you to list off what your specs are? Does a client, for you, those of you that are starting off photography, do you think they care what kind of camera you have when you're showing them your images? Do you think they're going to look at your portfolio and say, that's great, but what kind of camera are you shooting on? That's great. I like these photos, but I kind of only want someone who shoots on a Leica, shoots on a Canon. Do you think they're going to say that? Do you think a client's going to ask you to film a video for them or shoot a documentary or shoot an interview like I'm doing right now and say, this is all good and stuff, but I noticed that you're shooting on a Sony and I wanted you to shoot on a Canon. I noticed you shot... Like, that is a 99% chance you're not going to hear anything. And the 1% chance if you have a pretentious asshole who's a videographer or photographer who's asking you to do these things for him, and he's just being a douchebag because he has an affiliation with a certain brand. Stop loving on these brands because they don't love us, they don't love you, they're not looking out for you, they're trying to make a quick buck, and it's the best thing to keep them on their toes by shitting on everything that's not good coming out from them. The X Pro 3 is the most professional camera that I can think of. It's the most professional camera I've ever used. It's made me a better professional. Not looking back and chimping and being out of the moment has probably been the best thing for my photography ever. Even more, every time that I'm looking down at the back of my camera, I'm missing a moment. Every time that I'm looking down at the back of my camera, I'm not talking to my client and giving them my full attention. That's the thing you have to think about with this. Yes, for photography it knocks out of the park, and yes, for videography it does the best. But even more than anything, when it comes to the people that are BSers and they tell you, oh, you know why I like Leica Digital, you know why I like film cameras and shooting on the Mamiya 7, it's because, I get to slow down. Listen, you can slow down with any camera. I can be slow with this. It's all about it being intentional. Do you know what you're shooting? Do you know what you want? And do you know how to get that image and be able to convey it? And for 99% of people that you're seeing on YouTube that say you can't do that with a camera like this, just know they already have a camera party affiliation, number one. And number two, they'll say anything to get you click on the affiliate link for a new camera. I don't have affiliate links because I don't give a damn if you buy from me. I'm just going to tell you where they're at. But that's where we're at right now. We're in an age to where a camera that does great like these two, these are both great cameras, but they're not good enough because they don't fill out certain specs. When last time I checked, whenever it comes to getting work done, no client ever says, I have to have a camera that has these specs on it. I have to have a photographer with gear that has these specs. Because they don't care. I've been to these photo expos, I've worked with people, I've worked with different models, with different companies, and I've never have someone freak out because I pull out this camera. I've never have someone throw a fit because I pull out this camera. The only thing that's mattered is at the end of the day, whenever I send them their final product, are they happy or not? And 100% of the time, without fail, they've been happy. They've never asked me what camera I use. They've never talked to me about my lenses. They never have once gone into detail about what software I'm using, anything. All that the customer cares about is, did you get the job done? And again, if you can't get the job done with a kit lens and some beginner gear, how are you ever going to get the job done whenever you move up to a camera system? Full frame, L glass, G glass, whatever. Be who you are and be a great photographer, be a great videographer with the gear you have right now. And the gear that I choose to have right now, over and over and over again, is this, the most professional camera ever made to date, the X Pro 3 from Fujifilm. That's it for me. And if you have a problem with this whole thing that I said, if you have a problem with me and you want to defend Leica or you want to defend Canon or Sony, or you're one of the people that want to tell me that full frame will always be better than the APS-C, just remember this one thing. Your images probably are shit. So have a good one.